It's been a busy season for Android dogfights, my friends, but this one's going to be particularly interesting because it's two beautifully designed Android handsets that, at least design-wise, can compete with the Apple iPhone 5. How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog. This is the HTC One, and this is the Google Nexus 4. Both hot, well-known, well-respected Android handsets. Which one's going to come out on top? We're doing a PhoneDog dogfight to find out. Is it the One or the Nexus 4? Join me, and we'll find out. Obviously, Android's kind of dominating the market right now in terms of overall devices released, so we see a lot of Android dogfights, and you're probably thinking to yourself, it's another Android dogfight. I hope you're excited about it as much as I am, because what I like about this one, the HTC One and the LG Nexus 4, also known as the Google Nexus 4, the fact that these are two incredibly high-end, well-designed Android phones. I mean, you look at, LG or Samsung or some of the other ones that utilize plastic, and some people say, they use plastic. What I like about this one, these are two premium material-based devices. I mean, the HTC One is gorgeous with metal all around and glass in the front. The LG Nexus 4 has been lauded for its build quality with glass in the back. And obviously, with these devices, much like the iPhone 5, you get that risk of breaking. You drop it, you shatter the glass, yada, yada. But what I like about these is it brings kind of that iPhone 5 design to Android. So, you love that metal. You love the glass. Up until about a year ago, or I'd say 6 months ago, it was really hard, if not impossible, to find a device that really compared in terms of a hardware standpoint, just strictly from an exterior hardware standpoint, to the Apple iPhone 5 if that was what you wanted. So you're kind of presented with this conundrum between, do I go with the iPhone, assuming you're carrier or OS agnostic, you were kind of presented with this, do I go with the iPhone for the hardware, or do I go with Android for the software, or maybe I like little things about iOS and Android, or, just presented an interesting issue. But these are two incredibly well-designed Android handsets. Now, the HTC One is coming soon to the US. It's coming to AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile in silver and in black, 32, 64 gigabyte variants, and specs are impressive as well. I should note that 32 or 64 gigabytes, it's totally dependent on what the carrier decides to carry in their retail stores and online. So maybe like Sprint will just carry 32, for example, and AT&T may carry 32 and 64, whatever the case may be. I'm just guessing there. I actually don't know. But AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile. Specs-wise, 1.7 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 600 CPU, so it's utilizing the new Snapdragon architecture, and forgive me here while I pull this away. There we go. Utilizing the new Snapdragon architecture here. It's got a 4.7-inch 1080p HD display, so much like the Droid DNA, a beautiful display. It's a little bit smaller, but still a gorgeous display. What I like about 4.7 inches, I think for the mainstream, it fits a lot of people's needs in terms of size. Now, it's hard to say that in today's world, 4.7 inches is kind of on the smaller side, but realistically speaking, I think this is a device that's going to fit in a lot of people's hands. So the travel-wise, I can make it to the top without any issue, and even though I have bigger hands, this is going to be a nice mid-sized device for a lot of people in comparison to something like a Galaxy Note 2 or an LG Optimus G Pro. Camera on the back, 4 ultra pixel camera with 1080p HD recording, HTC Zoe capabilities. I utilize ultra pixels because it is an HTC marketing buzzword, but what I use it for is because I really want to distinguish the difference between this camera and 4 megapixels or 8 megapixels, the traditional camera. HTC is working hard to revitalize the way people look at the camera, and I will tell you, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, the camera is incredible on the HTC One. Otherwise, 2 gigabytes of RAM, Android 4.1 with HTC Sense version 5, so the newest version of HTC Sense user interface. What I like about this, going to be available on multiple carriers in the US, so for that mainstream consumer that still buys their phones, and most people do, from the US carriers, there's a lot of marketing potential here and a lot to offer. And then here's the LG Nexus 4. This thing packing some great specs, but what's so great about this device? The price point. I mean, you can get this phone in 8 or 16 gigabyte variants, starting at $299 for the 8 gigabyte variant, and that's unlocked. That is without a contract from the Google Play Store. And you can get it through T-Mobile in some select instances as well. Also has a 4.7-inch display, though it's just basically 720p, right there around 720p. 4.7-inch display, 768 by 1280 pixels here. 8-megapixel camera on the back with 1080p HD recording. You got a front-facing camera on both of these devices. HTC touts a wide lens here so you can take more pictures of your friends. You're doing that kind of selfie in the mirror or selfie with your friends. I can't believe I just said selfie on camera. But anyway, you can do that. Hey, you know what? It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday morning. And 1 cup of coffee. I mean, give me a break here. It's sick nasty. It's cray-cray. as the kids say. Or maybe it's cray. I actually don't know if it's... I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, here's the device, Android 4.2.2, and it's a stock build. It is a Nexus device, so following along with the HTC Nexus One, Nexus S, Galaxy Nexus, and then the Nexus 4. Really a beautifully designed device, and the fact you can get it for $300 without a contract is really nice. That said, both of these have non-removable storage, 8 gigabytes and 16 gigabyte options over here. So if you are a music buff or video buff or somebody that uses your device and stores a lot of stuff on it, this may be a harder sell for you, although a lot of people really like that stock Android. And what I will give Nexus 4 credit for, historically, stock Android's kind of been a nerd's playground, if you will, but they are doing a little bit more marketing towards the mainstream consumer here. We'll talk more about that later in the video. But first, I want to give special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like this for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. All I do, ship those to Phone Dog East. They give them away to you for free in the One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. When the One comes out, or maybe even the Nexus 4, any of these other devices, Galaxy Note, Optimus G Pro, when it comes out, they'll make sure you walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your camera settings, your contacts, your web. So when you walk out the door, you don't have to deal with all that setup stuff. And even, send your mom in, send your aunt in. They'll take good care of them as well. It's Best Buy Mobile's walkout working program, and it really does help. Let's take a look at messaging here and just jump right in because I want to show you the keyboard here on both of these devices. And the improvements LG and Google has made to the Android 4.2 keyboard, but then HTC's made to the Sense 5 keyboard. Really a beautiful keyboard over here. And if you've watched my videos, you know my love for the Droid DNA and the HTC One X's keyboard. That's Sense 4 Plus. They improved it from Sense 4 and 4.1. Really impressed with it on Sense 5. Incredibly easy to type on. The autocorrect is very good. And you'll notice that across the board it uses a new system-wide font called Roboto. But 4.7 inches, decent size for most people. The thing that you're going to find with the HTC stuff, if you're used to working with HTC devices, this pesky little menu button down here at the bottom. And I am getting a little bit sidetracked, but I want to show you that because this doubles up as your recent apps and doubles up as Google Now. It presents a challenge because the button's basically being used for a couple of different things. It can't be used for anything else. But the keyboard is good. The personalization is great here. Much like Samsung's devices, you can personalize the text message look and feel, the background, the overall text box colors. And let's see, for example, Mr. Rogers, you can see I've got the blue text color here. Will you be my neighbor? Nope. What a mean guy. Android 4.2.2 over here. So you are getting a newer version of Android. You're getting a later version of Jelly Bean with things like this. Quick settings where I can access, my quick settings and my Wi-Fi and my airplane mode and all of that stuff easily from that area. Or I can bring down 2 fingers and access it just like that. Now, the Android 4.2 keyboard is decent, and it's one that I actually use. Love this keyboard over here. When I'm not working with this device, like a Galaxy Note 2 or Galaxy S3 or whatever the case may be, I actually install the Android 4.2 keyboard on that because I do find this keyboard to be pretty useful today. Thanks. And this one actually has a swipe-like functionality as well, which I've turned off, but when it's on, you can utilize that and move your finger around the screen. I've never really gotten into the swipe thing, but for people that like it, it is a great option. So let's talk just briefly, jumping on a message at build quality as well. I want to show you the micro SIM card slot here on the left side. Volume rocker over here on the right. This thing exudes premium materials. I mean, if you're that person that likes your device to look like your watch or your car, you really want that kind of high-end metal look and feel device. And it's got great software as well. We'll talk more in part 2 about some of the improvements that HTC's brought to Sense 5. But really just a gorgeous device. The black is beautiful as well. Love the speakers on the front. Can't believe a manufacturer, or any of them for that matter, have taken so long to get speakers on the front. When you were listening to music or a YouTube video, it's incredible to have those up here. But it really just exudes this nice industrial, expensive look and feel. You'll notice the micro USB charging port is down there at the bottom. It's a little bit off center, which I actually kind of like. Different design theme. Power button, which doubles up as an IR blaster, and then 3.5mm headphone jack up top. Now, over on the Nexus 4, you got your volume rocker and micro SIM card slot, both on the left side. Power button over on the right, kind of a Samsung/LG look and feel over here, with the power button on the top right-hand side. 3.5mm headphone jack up top. Got your micro USB charging port down there at the bottom, some screws. So this thing definitely has a beautiful build to it as well. Keeping in mind that price point too, $300 for this kind of thing. That is a sweet, sweet deal. $300, you can either get a bunch of clothes or you can get a Nexus 4. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be naked with a Nexus 4. Actually, that's not true at all. I really like clothes, but I like Nexus 4s too. It's kind of a wash. It's hit or miss. Depends on what's more important to you. I'm going to be quoted on Twitter for this. I absolutely know it. But you can see over here, stock Android 4.2.2. No carrier installed applications on either of these devices because this is actually an unlocked HTC One. Now, expect it to have some AT&T or T-Mobile or Sprint stuff when it comes to the States, but it will have LTE. That's the one downside down here. It only has HSPA+, though I will say on AT&T you can maximize out at 21 megabits per second, T-Mobile at 42 megabits per second. So it's decent HSPA+. It's not bad depending on your market, but if you're used to LTE, and you're in a market like me, for example, Dallas, which is one of AT&T's 2 home markets, where LTE is 20 to 40 megabits per second on a regular basis, depending on where you are, it's really hard to go back to HSPA+. So I think it's going to depend on your individual market conditions and what you're used to. With that said, really nice here. On-screen buttons, back, home, and recent applications, completely stock Google look and feel with your widgets up here, and you'll scroll back and forth right between your apps and your widgets here. And you can see all of the Google stuff. Chrome integration here, Currents, then you've got Google Talk, of course, Google Play, all that different stuff, and then your widgets as well. Now, we'll talk about the lock screens in part 2. I want to show you this one as well. HTC Sense 5, dramatically different, in my opinion, from HTC Sense 4. And 4, actually both 4 and 3.5 and all the ones before that. So you got BlinkFeed over here, which BlinkFeed, think of it like Flipboard. You can aggregate your social media stuff, Twitter and Facebook. And what this is intended to be is something like, you're at the bus stop, you're in a cab, moving from one meeting to the other. You just want quick and easy glance at your information. You want to see Twitter, Facebook, and you don't really want to go into the applications. This is really nice because you can easily do that. So out of the box, this is what it looks like. It's got BlinkFeed popping up and then one home screen over here. So you got your weather clock up top, and just to refresh, you pull it down and you'll see that it's updating right now. And of course, this, for example, and you see it brings up the full Talk Android, using this as an example, brings up a full image post, and I can read the text if I want to, but just for a quick and easy glance, it's really nice. Another thing I like a lot is that, if you want that traditional home screen look and feel, you've got 4 additional home screens that you can go up to just by adding a panel. You've got your widgets right here. It doesn't scroll over between apps and widgets as easily as the Nexus 4 does, but you can do a maximum of 4 home screens in addition to BlinkFeed. You can't actually turn BlinkFeed off or get rid of it. It does maximize one of those home screens. But that said, I find it particularly useful, but if you want it to be a home screen, as you see, like I have mine set up here, bam. All I do is unlock it, and it goes right to a traditional home screen. So you've got the options there. And again, BlinkFeed is one of 2 things that I find particularly useful on this device, and we'll talk about Photosphere here. So in part 2, camera, Photosphere, HTC Zoes, all that good stuff coming up in part 2 of a dogfight battle between the One and the Nexus 4. You're definitely going to want to stay tuned.